Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the VFX Nomads podcast. We're joined, Josh and Adrian and myself. G's off today, but we're gonna continue on. Sorry for being absent for the last 3 months. We've all been busy with summertime adventures, I'm sure, and finishing projects. So speaking of, what has everybody been up to? Adrian, Josh, do you want to just take it off?
Go on, Adrian. You go for it.
You pretty much summed it up very well. So summer was crazy. Some project, got complex in the end. So I had to cover quite a bit and spend countless hours, which I thought I remembered what that felt like. I didn't remember.
Brought you back to the NPC days.
Oh yeah, that was
some PTSD hidden away.
It was not the best kind of nostalgia. But, I just had some rest in end of September, and then for the last few months I've been mostly focused on playing around with AI stuff and all of that, and starting with the new projects that we are going to shoot, and not too VFX heavy, but always good to start stuff. So, and I finished my home for sure.
Nice.
You're done with your home renovations.
I mean that is the stage that you consider something done. You know it's gonna keep going forever, but it's like functional. Yeah. I have a.
He's got a door in his he's got a door in his toilet now. Then it was like, this
I
is
have
done.
a door now. Yeah.
Finally.
Yes.
This is great.
I now pronounce this flat done.
The final cherry on top.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Super good.
Yeah.
Very good.
What have you been up to, Josh?
Yeah,
Oh man, I think it's been a crazy, like, we were chatting about this right before we just hit record. Like, I think it's been a really busy 2 years because studios obviously have kind of just tried to grab work where they can, maybe more than the usual. So it's been lots of kind of maybe shorter projects than the usual rather than kind of the longer time period on them. So what have I been up to? We delivered Prince Badlands, which is pretty good, which I was a lead comp on for a sequence, which is good. Some really like complex, intricate shots. So that was good. And then I was a lead comp on something else. And then I was on holiday 4 weeks in Seoul, and I went diving in a Japanese island called Ishigaki with manta rays, which was pretty amazing. And it's like the longest holiday I've ever had, which was 4 weeks long. And it was so nice to be like, I know, I was paranoid I was going to forget how to comp. And it's crazy actually, when you come back, you're like, it feels like you just not been on holiday and everything's the same. But it was great. Yeah, it was really, really good. And then now I'm just starting on a show and we're like bidding a bit, working out how many compers we need on the team. And it's really, really early on in the project. It's mostly kind of comp work. So it's quite nice. I'm kind of like helping the comp soup out, basically working out our team stuff. So yeah, like you guys, it's been really busy, which is why we haven't been doing this thing. How about you, Tony? How's your German and everything going?
Yeah, good. I actually submitted my citizenship application and my permanent residence application, so I'm just kind of waiting for that to come through, which is exciting. That was a huge step for me because it meant that when I did have time off, I could focus on like enjoying a holiday instead of, I don't know, learning German or studying for a test or something like that. And so I went back to America for 2 weeks, about 3 weeks ago or something in October. So I tried to time it for I'm from the Northeast, like around Boston. That's when the trees start to turn colors, and it's really beautiful, like around Halloween time or something. So I tried to time it right for that, and it was pretty good timing. It was nice to be back for a bit. Went to Washington D.C. That was cool. I've never seen like the capital of the U.S. I've seen the capital of the European Union before I saw the capital of the United States, which is kind of funny.
Is it weird being a tourist like in your home country?
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really like it was definitely like being as a tourist. Like you see it from different eyes, but also you kept catching up with friends and stuff. So it's the way I was trying to describe it to people is it felt like a multiverse version of what I remember. It's like everything was the same but slightly different. It's like that scene in Back to the Future Part 2 where he goes back and like everything's changed and like everything's messed up. And it's like, hey, this is the same house, but it should look like this, but it looks like this different, or like that. You know, my friend is different, or something like that. It's like everything is the same, but slightly changed. Like you woke up from a coma or something like that. I don't know.
Life in the VFX industry. It's like waking up from
it was fun. Yeah, we also finished Predator's Badlands at
Were you
Trickster.
a lead comper as well?
I was a lead on that show, on some sequences there, and yeah, it was pretty good for us. Like we were really proud of like the sequence that we did and everything. Adrian, I have a question for you regarding like you said you did a lot of like the overtime or just a lot of hours in general. Do you think, in your memory of how it used to be in like NPC days, let's say, do you think that that's become better or worse that you have to do things from home? Like does it, because when you're in the shit and it's like you're there working really late and it's like really stressful, sometimes I felt that it was a bit of camaraderie, that you were there with other people and that you felt like, at least I'm not alone doing this. But I thought maybe like working from home, maybe there's like this kind of isolation there.
Yeah, no, totally. I think in those moments, just being surrounded by physical people and sharing the the shit together, I think that's very nice in some way. But at the same time, I guess that's not the norm anymore in terms of having to do overtime, and at least that philosophy changed a bit overall in the industry, I think, and that's a very good change. But yeah, still sometimes shit happens, and if that needs to be done while you're home, I mean that's what needs to happen. But it becomes a bit isolating, and you need to like see how to spend time outdoors, even if it's like 1 hour weekly. And
I think the thing is though, like work from home with overtime is maybe better for seniors, but worse for juniors. So what I mean is like, the great thing is if you're a senior is you can put a render on, then you can go have some food, right? And come back and you're not like just stuck in an office and you've got to render something, or like maybe you've dailied something, right? And you're waiting for the amount of times I remember being in the office, I dailied something, the supervisor's got to review 20 things. So you literally just sat there waiting, right, for them to review something. Whereas at home, it's a lot easier. Whereas if you're a junior, obviously, there's something quite nice that like you meet everyone else, right? And that's where I've made my best friends, when we're all delirious from doing a bunch of overtime. I mean, you don't want to romanticize it, but it's true. Like, again, if you're all in the trenches together, then that is kind of where I've made a ton of my best friends and things. So I think there's like positives and negatives to both, right? In regards to this thing. But I do think, again, like for juniors, it's probably better to be in the office in those times, because if you're stuck, then you can turn around and talk to a senior or whatever it might be. But as a selfish senior who's been doing this for a while now, I prefer doing overtime from home for sure.
That has to be like a human experience, right? I mean, I read somewhere that like relationships are built, like trust is built on risk and reward for the risk. Like you're in trouble and somebody saves you or something. And it's like, now you have this motion. It's like, if I'm in trouble, so this person's going to help me out. And so it's like relationships are sort of built on a lot of those smaller like risk reward kind of things, and like trusting, that's how trust is built. So I imagine that like that. I mean, there's ways, I suppose, that you can still like jump in and help people from remote. I think it just felt a little bit, or maybe it was just a faster evolving process when you're in person. It's like that can happen over like 2 weeks or something, and maybe it just takes longer online. I'm not sure.
I think it's easier to share ideas, right? I mean, again, like think of like double negative when you're all in a tiny office like we used to be, right? We're all in individual rooms of 10 people. I think that is when you really felt like, wow, like we're all in this together. Like you're coming in the weekends, you're all in your little room and you're doing stuff. Whereas when it was NPC open floor and maybe people on different projects, you get a little bit less of that. But yeah, I don't know. I think nowadays, to be honest, the way I like to lead stuff is I'll just jump on stuff if I feel like I can help, to be honest with you. So I think as a lead or a supervisor, whatever it might be, you have to kind of change how you're, like, you have to be a bit more observant about like, oh crap, look, okay, this person's doing this. Can I maybe help them? Because actually this should take a lot quicker than what they've done, etc. So I think there's a lot of adjusting you need to do in terms of work from home and overtime things. How about you, Adrian?
By the way, my recent work from home overtime was from the perspective of a VFX sub, not from an artist. So what made it slightly tricky was that all the artists were doing overtime, or most of them. Like it was not forced on anyone, of course, but I felt very bad every time I had to like leave home for 5 minutes, because I knew someone was waiting for feedback and they were waiting on their computer at their home. So I think that's the only thing that gets it a bit more tricky. Like knowing that the team is all like pushing very hard, so you have to like see how to make it move forward.
It's more like hinging on you to review the shots and everything, and you feel a little bit like guilty if you're out doing something. It makes sense. It's like a lot of pressure.
Also, you feel good if you give a note sometimes as well, right? Because it's like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry, like, but I just know the client's going to just like pick on this one thing. Like, that's super tricky as well. It's, I think that again, by the way, is like where when I'm leading, I like to be, I mean, I'm sure we all do, but like as transparent as possible of like this, like, okay, this is the reason why I'm saying this thing. Like, I'm not just doing it because I'm trying to be a dick and like prove that I can stamp my authority on this thing. It's just like, I know that they're going to pick on this one thing. So I think that again is where, if you got artists who feel like they're not just doing notes for the sake of notes, right? Like you're not bottlenecking on purpose and this kind of thing, then I think it's a lot easier if you're saying, look, we don't have to do overtime. Now we do because we just got to do these 4 or 5 things and then we're okay and we're done again. So I think making people aware of why they're doing the overtime is the way to go. Obviously, it still sucks, don't get me wrong. But you never want, I feel like previously, right, like back in the industry, we were doing overtime and it was maybe like bullshit overtime, if that makes sense. Like maybe, like, do you know what I mean? Like the amount, like when I think
the
back,
payoff
like,
is not worth it.
Yeah. Like I remember again the amount, and you see this way less now, but like you get to version 600 of a shot. I remember on like some people, and then they'd look at version 100 and like, oh, actually, look, I think you look better then. And it's like, okay, like that doesn't happen as much anymore. So I think
it's tough. It's like because you obviously as a lead or a supervisor or something like that, you want the quality to be memorable, or like especially if there's like a complicated film with many vendors and stuff, like your work is also going to be compared against other people's like in the same movie, other people's work in the same movie. So like you don't want to be the one that's like the one sequence that looks like shit. You want to have like respect for your work as well. So there's like a balance there, and I don't know how you guys handle the balance of like is my note worth it, or is it good enough, or like yes, it's maybe it's good enough for just like the ticking the checkbox, but is that going to be the part that's like when you stack everything up in the overall, it's like should you have put more time on that? And so how do you feel about this? Like, does that go through your head when you're giving notes?
How about you?
I think it's super important to find that balance where, of course, you're prioritizing whatever makes you deliver something that you think could be fine. And everything that goes from there is like the countless creative notes that anyone can have. But at least technically and on itself, the shot should look right for you. If you're sending something that is not good for you, then that's probably a bigger problem. But if you find a way to at least hit that mark of okay, for me, this could work as a shot. Everything's correct. Everything's sitting where it is. At least then it just becomes a... Yeah, if the client just wants it a certain way, then there's nothing I really can do about it. So,
what do you think, Josh?
Also, I find as well, like the more you get towards the end of a project, most of the time I'm just like, does it work in the edit? That's all I really care about, right? Like
That's true.
At some point, it's like, okay, like this ember goes over here. Okay, I don't give a shit. Like, does it work in the edit on the run? And that actually is the most important thing. And then most of the time it's just balancing stuff, right? Like, okay, let's just knock the contrast out of the background a little bit, just to push it into the distance. So I think I think nowadays we've got way less of this like circling an individual snowflake, and it's like I don't like the movement of that one, right? Which was a thing before, and you still get every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's like these like bigger things that actually impact shows.
Yeah.
By the way, it's something very important that I kept in mind for this particular project. I think it's good to keep in mind as an industry. So for me, if there's something that the only way you can tell it's wrong is by bringing the plate, then it's probably not too important. You know what I mean? Like when someone sees the movie, they will not be watching at the plate and doing A/B. So if something is correct on itself, and you just need the plate to see it's wrong, then it's probably fine.
Speaking of that, there's a big company. I'm not going to say names. There's a big company where someone very, very high up in that company basically said like they felt like things were people were taking the piss a bit in TC, like leads and supervisors, and they were maybe losing time and money over it. So that person sent out an email basically saying, look, if you've played it through 3 times and you can't spot anything and this, then it's fine. Like you don't need to do any more of this basically. So, and that was at a very, very big company with very high standards. So yeah, I think as Adrian said, like, I think because nowadays, as you know, Tony, right? Like the turnaround just got quicker surely since you started in the industry.
Yeah.
Same for me.
Yeah. You need more, like it needs... I think we mentioned this on a previous podcast. You need to do more in less time, or with fewer people. It's like a constant theme. It's like we need more output with less input. But I guess I'm on the fence of like that stuff. Like I've heard about the 3 times playback. I think that's good for like work in progresses or even like proposed final. But then when it comes to like, okay, the client has said this is what we want, then I turn into like, I always imagine that somebody does have the plate. And like have you ever received a paint and you're like, even when you A/B with the plate, it's only exactly what needed to be changed, and you're like, that's a chef's kiss, And I think that's like maybe that's just
you're still stuck back in the day, man. You can't.
I guess so. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how I like grew up through the industry at like Luma and stuff. It was always they used to make us put the difference in our slate. So essentially, like a difference render would be rendered and put into the slate sheet so that you could see right away if there was a difference, because you might change like the D-spill of somebody's shirt or something accidentally, and they just wanted to know right away, like, did you change the plate or not? Because there's from the film point of view, there's like director of photography. They spent all this time on their bokeh shapes and their all this stuff. So if you go and wreck something, they're going to be very angry, or like that's money lost on a different front. And so I don't know. I think it depends on the shot, of course, but I guess I'm always in the school of thought of like we should be the magicians that are like just changing a little bit of stuff like here and there. Obviously, it depends on the shot, right? Yeah. If you're adding a character into the shot and nothing else changes, maybe that more applies. If it's a full CG destruction scene, then maybe you don't even need a plate or don't care that much about much change. But I guess it just depends on what you're doing, I suppose. But I
agree with what you're saying, but like a lot of that stuff's in TC, right? Like I think when you're sending creative stuff, like, and as you said, right, you do like a difference node at the end, bring in the plate and your comp, and then whack up the gain. And then I generally use a grade node and grade everything red that's different. And as you said, you can spot like, oh, look, you've left a rotor shape on ever so slightly, or maybe we're changing too much of the plate. Like I think that is definitely legit for sure.
I mean, the clients have compers, like senior compers that are sitting there also tech checking your shots, and you will get kickback. You'll get kickbacks even when you spend days on a tech check. You'll get a kickback like, you missed something popping on this frame or whatever, something. And, so you have to go through it with a comb, because I still think you get kickbacks. So it's not like they've relaxed their standards. So, and also there is a risk as well, like how many times can the client kick it back before your reputation gets damaged? That's another thing.
I think, but this is all TCs, right? Like I think TCs have kind of remained the same. Like
just
it's more like the
TCs.
creative. Yeah, it's more like the creative thing though. Like people aren't fucking around with subjective stuff as much anymore in my experience. Like that's the bit that's been shortened, not necessarily the TC side of things.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
All the creativity part should be as quick and fluid, I think, as possible in order to get to a point where you lock it down. But then it shouldn't be just like, I just like fix the grain and send it, like because obviously if you're moving so quickly, I think you're gonna make more mistakes, and like you have to be really careful with it about that. But that's my opinion.
I think a big part of this really depends on what we define TC should be for a specific shot. Going back to where we spend lots of artist hours, like let's say you're doing some paint on some background elements that are not creatively important or relevant in the story. I don't think you should try to respect all the textures and all of that in those cases. And maybe if you're working on a hero character or something that's creatively irrelevant, let's say, or the bokeh that the director of photography wanted, then that becomes more important. But the more you're working towards something that is not really important and no one will care about, like maybe you're painting something in the stupid background and no one will ever notice, there should be some sort of criteria for looking at those things and be like, hey, maybe this is not too important if we slightly change it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The more we move to generative AI things, the more that will become the case for discussion, because things are going to be changing.
Yeah, it's like a priority list of like what is important to the shot. I completely agree with that. Like if somebody's not going to notice something in the background, I'm going to forget about it. But if it's like a close up, and I guess there's some of the things, and I don't know how you guys do, like if you're leading and doing tech checks and stuff, but one of the things that I look for is how easy is this to fix? Like, what's the cost benefit to there? And if I know personally, like that should only take 10 minutes to fix, and it's gonna make the shot look better. Like say they have a couple extra filters that it's blurring everything, and like it's causing stuff to regrain that shouldn't regrain. It's like, well, that should take about like 10 minutes to fix, and then the shot will like there's no reason to change it. Like we should just fix that in 10 minutes and then it's done. So that's kind of a lot of the mental math that I'm doing in my head. It's like, but like I've gotten notes before, and I'm sure you guys have. That's like, oh, I can still see a bit of spill like on this very edge of this character, and then you go and you try to adjust, and you're like, no, this is gonna take forever to try to fix this. And they're like, doesn't matter how many days it takes, just do it. Like, and it's like 3 days later, and you have to roto some like part of their shirt, and it's like, yeah, now you're rotoing wrinkles and stuff, and it's like, this was not worth it at all. So I try not to do that, but of course, some things probably slip through the cracks.
I mean,
and there's times that could be completely normal. If there's like a green object down there in the background, it would just cause that spill without being a green screen. That's fine.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that again is the thing, right? It's like, am I circling this just because I can, or am I circling it because I actually think it's going to make a better image and needs to be done? I mean, for me, the most lenient I am is just on defocused or motion blurred edges. Like, okay, you haven't brought back all the motion blur. Okay, well, there's a different background behind it. Maybe it's brighter, so we can just like that's the bit. I think if I saw green, I mean, I'm calling out green spill and stuff like that. I'm generally a bit more of a like I call out quite a lot of TCs. Let's just say, but the thing is, right, as we all know, the closer you get towards the deadline, the less you care about TCs. And the other thing that Suits used to do, and what Leeds used to do, I don't know if anyone still does this, I'm sure some places do, is you're generally a bit more of a, I don't do this, but like there used to be like a bit more of a dick on the TCs at the start of a show to just like keep everyone on the ball. And then towards the end, you get a bit more relaxed based in because everyone's so used to the standard set at the start of the show, then everyone kind of knows to hit that. So, yeah, that was another trick.
That's a good point. I mean, towards the end of the show, but basically there's like levels of TC. There's like when you're proud still, and then there's the like, we need to get this out the door. And at that point, I mean, just for anybody, like say you're a junior or a mid or something, you listen to this, like there are certain things that we need to do. Like we need to make sure there's grain. We need to make sure there's no missing frames. We need to make sure that the edges of frames are not like black and like, messed up or stretchy pixels or something. And then there's like, any note that the client has ever mentioned in the past, we need to make sure that that note does not apply to that shot, and maybe a couple other things. But like if those bare minimums are done, then and there's no like roto shape floating around, then we can send it. But like even those brief lists can sometimes be hard to do at the very end of a show, because you're like, I know I should be looking at this, and it's like I need to give this note, but I wouldn't want to.
The biggest pain in the arse one I keep finding in some people's scripts is like, how like you should put a crop node for expo glows, or if you've got an expo glow that doesn't do this, then it pops at the edges, and then the client signs off that look. And it's like, oh fuck, like okay, like this is causing issues somewhere else, and it's just like, oh god. So and it just changes the look of the shot, and it's that's the one that I keep catching. But
that always hurts when you like deliver things for stereo packages and stuff, because then you because anybody who's not familiar with the process, like in stereo package, you have to like pre-comp all the parts of your script to make like a very very small version of your script. And in the process of pre-comping, you would think that the end result is going to match one-to-one with what you had. But there's always like that black outside, or it doesn't render all the channels properly or something, and then some mask gets messed up. And that can take so long to figure out, like, why is this thing not matching? Like you said, there's a glow that now it's cropped outside the frame and it's causing it not to look the same.
Or stretching pixels into your overscan that is then going through a glow node. So those stretching pixels are glowing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so much of that.
And it's like, now I have to pre-comp this wrong so that it's like, oh my god,
the mistake, it's a feature. It's not a bug.
This is why, by the way, if you're ever like asked to just jump on someone's shot and do this kind of thing, have a look at the script first before you tell people how long it's going to take, right? Because that in paper is just like, oh, you just put a bunch of write nodes in a render, it's going to take you 5 minutes, and then it's like, oh god, I've got to like recomp this thing to make it look as broken as it was before. It's man, it's become a therapy session. That was good.
And there's something very interesting that you said, that kind of, you set in some ways the bar at the start of a project, and then there's some dynamics that are established there, and then at some point you just have all the inertia with the team, and you just work in the way that you've been working so far. I think that also works in the negative part, meaning if you start just iterating quickly on creative things, and it might happen that you start getting client approvals, and you start in theory pushing the breakthrough very fast, but then when you get to the TC part, then you see that many things you did were just not done in the right way to get it creatively, so technically approved later. So then you have to restart, and then suddenly everyone is super annoyed that this should take like one extra day, and it's now taking 2 weeks just to QC a shot. And
Yeah.
That's why I feel every time more and more that I need to be very clear with the team at the start that in the creative phases, they still have to work in a way that gets them closer to.
I mean, well, what do you think? Because going back to like being more strict at the beginning, don't you think that sets a sort of standard of also what you're looking for? And so like when people know that it's not going to go through if you missed this and this. And then
but
next
Tony,
time
the problem is though, but Tony, the problem is though, like you, as Aidan saying, like you could hack a comp together, right? So like creatively, yes, you've hit the notes, but you don't know under the hood that Nuke script's an absolute mess, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Like that's the thing, and then it's like everyone's grabbing that script, throwing it in their shots, and then everyone's in like Painland in TC.
We need a screenshot of the Nuke script for the slate to send it.
Exactly.
I won't review it without a screenshot of the Nuke. No, but I just meant like for TCs or something, right? We were talking about like in the beginning you're more strict than at the end of the show, but I also think being more strict at the beginning is setting up standards, especially for like mids or juniors who are not familiar with working at either your company or with you. That's like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm not like won't accept that you just take the creative final and render it out again and submit it like without changing anything. You know, it's like we're looking for edges, improvements, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to kind of instill that. And I do feel like people then like learn. It's like taking you ever get a substitute teacher or something when you're in high school, and you're so used to how another teacher gives you a test that when you get this new test from this other teacher, that because every teacher's making different tests, then you're thrown about. You're like, oh, I didn't expect that it's going to look like this because I'm so used to this other test. So I think people need to get used to like either a VFX supervisor or comp supervisors like wants or needs or whatever, you know, like bar.
Yeah. I'd say like there are some compers that if I've worked with before and I feel like they kind of always shoot themselves in the foot towards the end of a project, or if we have new compers to the show or to the company, I will like call out TCs kind of early, almost just to again, if you got a senior compositor you worked with before, industry 10 years, okay, you know what you're doing, I'm going to leave you alone, right? But some people you need to kind of think of the mistakes that they're going to make before they make them, if that makes sense, just given your experience. And then also, to be honest with you, like sometimes if we have someone new to the show, I will keep an eye on their new scripts every now and then. I won't like go in and like change stuff behind their background, like, because that's horrible, but more just like, I'll just keep an eye, like, okay, like for instance, everyone does something a bit different, right? So it's just like keeping an eye on that stuff. So then you can just flag and just say, hey, look, hope it was well. I spotted this in your shot. Here's how I would fix it. And you're kind of just like, again, nudging them towards so they don't make these mistakes. And I think that's kind of what makes a good lead, right? To be honest with you, this kind of stuff.
You should just open their scripts and put a little like a red sticky note with an arrow that says JP and the smiley face.
No.
Just like at the
Josh was here.
At the B boxes, probably just point to it. Don't even fix it. Just point. I'm just kidding.
No. But
You are being watched.
It's intrusive, of course. Yeah,
I've heard horror stories about that. Like again, and I think a lot of the learnings are actually learned from kind of the people doing things wrong as well. Like, most of them are just like people you didn't like working with or this kind of thing, and you can write down those and not ever do it. But something I remember hearing at one big studio was a lead was going in the evenings and then changing stuff and then rendering it out and dailying it on their behalf. And it's like, no. Like that, yes, you may have got the shot done, but you've just absolutely destroyed morale of that person.
Hands-on.
Every time you work
Hands-on leadership.
That's horrible. Like, you can't be doing that unless you tell them and they're okay with it.
I've always struggled with like, not everybody is open for that kind of feedback or like to be probed around the Nuke script, or like, some people are working quickly and they haven't cleaned it up, and if they got a chance to clean it up, then so like I always want like somebody's permission to like do it. But on the other hand, sometimes your comp soup or VFX soup or something is like, hey, can you like, hey, we've noticed a few problems, can you actively go in and like help people out and like review this? So then it's like you kind of have this directive to help people out, let's say, and like review the scripts, but then you maybe don't have. So it's like it's a tough toss up, because you're like, how much should I be invasive there and like just review their stuff? Should I ask them for like, hey, I'm going to review this. Do you mind? Do you want to send me something, or like, do you want to go through this together, or what? So I don't know how you've come up with strategies to do that, but I've always felt that tough to like, where's the balance between being too intrusive, but also if you're not, the show can kind of run amok.
I mean, Adrian, you've probably not got time to go into people's scripts, right? if you're
exactly. So, but also from the I guess supervisor's perspective, there's some tips that I've found very useful recently. Recently, I mean the last few years. Obviously, not going into Nuke scripts, but just doing the extra step in the initial creative phases and bringing the plate, checking zoomed in, exposure up, exposure down, like things that are really not worth it in that stage from a theoretical standpoint. Just doing that extra step and giving those kinds of notes early, then in some way makes the artist think that they have to hit a specific technical quality from the beginning, and then that really avoids pain more towards the end of the project. Like, I know the client will not care about any of this in this stage, but if I don't care about it now, then it's going to be a very big pain.
Is there any example that you could give, like mismatching black levels or something? Like,
no, just like overall, let's say green screen sequences or stuff like that is more like technical stuff that the client will not comment on until you're going for final. In those kinds of things, if you do not get picky from the beginning as a soup or as something like that, then once everything is creative approved by the client, you're very fucked.
I guess like one example that might be, let's say you got a green screen plate, right? And it's like says defocused elements. Or like a motion blurred hair or something like that, and they're trying to get it. Now you could argue that, okay, look, we don't need to bring back all the motion blurred hair and all the details because, okay, look, we're just trying to get this signed off creatively. But actually, if you start calling out early and then the next version, the hair hasn't got better and maybe it's just got worse and they've just obviously blurred everything, then you jump on a call with them and say, hey, look, I noticed like this. Should we go through and I can show you some tricks that you might be able to use, right? And actually, I find if you do it that way, of like, okay, I'll give you a go. Okay, you haven't managed to do it. Let's now jump on a call. They actually really like it because they probably sat there stressed out and they can't figure it out themselves, and they know, right? But they don't feel like they can say. So that's probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I think always giving somebody a chance to like go through it themselves and just seeing what they're what they're having trouble with is always probably a good place to start.
Getting something technically final as soon as possible gets you to a situation where you can templatize things and everyone has like what they need to match technically as well, not just creatively. And then it's so much easier to make 20 shots.
Yeah, I cannot stress how important it is to take the time to templatize something or to make sure that there's problems that are not existing. Because when you get to a point, not just for tech checking, but when you need to share your script to other VFX vendors or ship it off to a stereo vendor or something, and you get in and suddenly this task that should take you 2 hours is taking you 2 days, like that's kind of stuff could have been probably solved if templates were a little bit cleaner or something, like because if the template's wrong, that could propagate through the whole show. And that could be just days wasted of like, now we have to fix every single thing because there's some channel missing, or I don't know what it would be, but those things can be really important. Trying to think at least like thinking, is this a show where I would need to pass my script to someone, and how easy will my script be to pass? And when I say I mean like if you're in a leadership position, like imagine that this part of the script is going to be in every single shot, and there's like 25 shots or something. It's like you need to kind of be conscious of how good it's going to translate later on.
I do think nowadays it's even more important to comp clean, to much be given like the speed, and if you've just got one of those, and obviously you've got one-off shots. We all know compers, right, who are insanely good at just making a one-off shot look amazing, and it's a one-off shot for the show, so they can make their scripts look whatever, right? It doesn't matter. But most shows aren't like that, and they've got sequences of shots where 30 of them are all going to look the same. So I do think that now more than ever is like, if you can just comp clean, and the amount of times I see people just grab a shot similar to theirs, the script, paste it in theirs, and yes, they've got something quick at the end of it, but they don't understand any of it, and then you give them a note and they're screwed. And actually, so like, yeah, as you said, just taking the time at the start, I think this maybe comes with seniority, right? But just taking the time at the start to make sure everything's clean, so that any notes you get in the future are going to be super quick to address. Especially if you've got big shots like with deep and everything, and they're super heavy with multiple elements. It's just, I mean, dude, I was using your setup actually with the like inject channel stuff and just kicking stuff out that way.
How did you like that?
Oh, it worked really well. Like sometimes I don't like using it because I find that it's like everything's up here for the holdouts and then you bring them in. And sometimes I like to kind of do that, but have it running down the side almost. But in this case, I had like 8, 9 elements, and I just had to do it quickly, so it was really easy to make a little mini comp at the side.
Yeah.
And dude, it worked like a dream, man. We churned everything out super. Well, I managed to churn everything out of these shots super quick.
Yeah,
so,
I always think
good
it's
advice.
worth it. Like I've just like even if I'm doubting that it's not, it always turns out that it's worth it for me at least. I've like learned my lesson enough times, or I'm like maybe this shot I can do some live deep. And then, it's just, you just calculate the number of times you have to render. And it's like, if they're taking 15 minutes on the farm when they could take 3 minutes, it's like, there's only so many times you're going to render before you get that payoff. It's like 3 times. So
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It was.
But yeah, it does suck. I wish deep would progress a little bit in technology, or maybe it has, but I just haven't noticed.
Companies have their own stuff for this.
Yeah,
I think
I wish it was more
companies,
public.
right?
I wish it was a bit more open source there, because I know like Weta has it. I know other companies probably have their own versions of this that are like optimizing things. But that's the one where I'm like, how is it still that I'm like struggling with all these powerful machines, render farms, and it's still I can't look at a shot with live deep, or else my script is gonna crash or something.
Yeah, it depends a bit. I mean, like you still need not exactly live deep, but you still need deep right if there's like a light in a fog or an atmospheric thing, right? Because you can't choose deep alphas for that because you've got the pixel value all the way through. So then you'd have to pre-comp out with the holdouts, which takes ages. And then it's like, are you pre-comping that out with all your light groups and AOVs as well? And then the EXR takes ages. So it's like, but I think like various different studios have ways of compressing this stuff, right? Remapping things.
There's definitely ways. It just depends on how much, like what it is. Like if it's a forest and there's 10 layers, it's gonna break your script, and then there's only so much you can do, I think. So it just depends on what it is and how many samples and how many, like, I don't know. Maybe what has just figured it out. But what I'm saying is, I would like to be more open. I would like to figure it out for everybody.
There's so many new technologies coming out, and each of them has still a very nice use case, such as deep. The next one I think is going to be Gaussian splats. That's going to be interesting as well.
Have you played around with Gaussian splat stuff at all?
No, it was one of the things that I was like really excited about when I saw the presentations at FMX a couple of years ago. But I feel like it hasn't trickled down the stream and got to us yet. I don't know. I haven't seen like anything. Maybe it's more of an Unreal thing. I don't know, Adrian. Maybe you see it more in virtual production or something. But
there's a Nuke plugin, isn't there?
Is there?
There's a Nuke plugin. Yes, there is one from like OFX kind of thing, like one that works in many softwares. But it's amazing by itself, even though it's not like natively implemented, and it has like very annoying things. Like it's taking the location translation rotation from the camera and not the 4x4 matrix, so you cannot do. I mean, minor things, but it's just annoying. But it's surprisingly good, and I just see like Gaussian splatting as a kind of a better version of a Nuke point cloud, and I'm sure you guys have solved shots with a Nuke point cloud directly rendering it in some.
We don't tell anybody about
in
this.
some cases.
No, actually, I've got a story on this. I've got a story. So one of the craziest things I saw was on Jungle Book. Well, obviously, it's a stereo show, so a native stereo. So we were rendering 2 eyes, and a guy called Lev. Oh God, I know his last name, but I can always pronounce it badly, so I'm not going to pronounce it. But anyway, he's a yeah. He's a client-side VFX suit. We used to drink whiskey in his office on the Martian. But anyway, on Jungle Book. He didn't have another eye. Like he was just right. We've only got this rendered without the other eye. So deep to points, bring in the other camera, boom, there's your other eye. I was like, oh yeah, that's some NPC comp right there. That was good shit.
Yeah, but imagine if you could do that, but instead of using Nuke points, which is like a square with no anti-aliasing and shit, you could just use a Gaussian splatting point cloud with like some fall off and camera dependent values and stuff like that. I just imagine a workflow where you do like a camera tracker, and then instead of doing a point cloud generation, you do a Gaussian splat generator. Yeah. And then you can re-render the same camera, but maybe with a smooth out camera, or maybe you clean up some elements.
Is there no thing that exists that does that already? Because that's what I was expecting to see. Because like when I saw the presentation at FMX, the guy did it live with his iPhone, and he just put it in an app, and it created. And I was like, okay, well that's going to be next time in Nuke. But I never saw it, so I don't know.
There's a really cool app that is called Post Shot.
Yeah, that's one I've
and then you can process so you have the automated closed source apps like Luma and stuff like that. And then Post Shot is similar to reality capture, where you just bring in the data into the app and then you just process the Gaussian splatting point cloud and you crop it. And then you can export something that you can load into Nuke.
External app? Because I was hoping for like an OFX plugin.
There is a plugin as well, but post-shot's an external one to like train the Gaussians.
So the Nuke plugin, you just bring in the PLY, which is the point cloud.
So it's not for training. That's what I was thinking. It's like, can't you... Like, shouldn't there be something already to train it? That's the part that I wanted in Nuke.
I think Foundry should be listening.
I mean, all you need, right? From my understanding, all you need is a camera, and that's it.
It's the same as like what was it? Photogrammetry. Like you just film around it basically.
Yep.
And then...
So the first stages of the process are the same.
And if you have a professional tracking team that's giving you a like perfect camera. You should. I mean, it should be a no-brainer.
You don't need a tracked camera though.
Yeah, you can. You can track the own camera, but I'm just saying, like, if you have a perfectly tracked camera from 3D Equalizer that's been approved, then it's like your point cloud's going to be amazing, probably. But like, you can, because usually when I start a new script, I already have a camera, so I'm like, that'd be great to just make a point cloud just real quick. It would be amazing, actually.
So the first stage is structure from motion. So the first stage in Gaussian Splat or nerfs or anything is always the same. It's just getting the camera position for each frame. That's no way around it. So even in the past when I was playing around with nerf things, I could import the cameras from reality capture. So I would use reality capture just to generate the camera positions, and then I would use that as a JSON to train the thing. I think it's exactly the same for Gaussian splatting. So I just see it so should be so straightforward to have it directly in.
I did suggest that we use it. So very recently, again, this is on the Shaman where we're trying to kind of do things in comp. We need a car door to shoot off, basically. So it's going to explode and the car door is going to fly off into the air. And I was like, maybe if we Gaussian splat this thing and I move the camera down rather than the door flying up, I can move the camera down, bit of motion blur. That might be enough, right? So like, man. I think again, like also with DMP, right? Like this kind of thing. Maybe you can scan buildings and drop them in. The problem is though, is all the lighting and reflections are baked in. As far as I know, anyway, it was last time, right? Like most of that stuff's going to be baked in. Or Adrian,
they're getting better with it. I just saw something the other day that they were rendering either out of Houdini or Blender or something, but they were rendering like a scene and they're just adding lights, and it was just Gaussian splats that they were lighting.
Yeah. So on top of that, with Gaussian splats, the cool thing is the color for each splat is view dependent.
Yeah.
So that means you can look at reflections.
But what I mean is like the reflection will be the same. Like I can't add a reflection into a car window, right? Totally. It's all baked. Like the lighting direction is baked in. It's still a bunch of photos that are just interpolating between the two camera angles or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could definitely relight it, which is pretty sick. It's Yeah. What would you guys prefer in Nuke next? Would you prefer like
that'd be nice.
Gaussian splat, or would you prefer like the Unreal stuff to get better, or would you prefer like to be able to
a better multi-shot workflow
thing?
I mean,
what would you guys prefer?
No, I'm dead serious about that. Multiple outputs and backdrop system live. It's not a live group, but it's a live backdrop, and it's like a something that you can save, and then it's in your script that's live, and you could just like update it or go off global. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot.
That, man. Adrian, how do you feel about that? Because I just get twitchy about it, man. Because I'm like, if someone updates that in my in another script, and then my script changes because of it, that sounds like a nightmare. But
yes, sounded like a nightmare to me. But then I spent 2 hours talking to Tony someday, and he showed me some ideas, and I was like, "Oh, man, maybe this makes sense."
You're part of the cult now as well.
No, it's not that. It's so okay. This is an incredible topic that I've been kind of obsessing over, but basically, there's a problem right now with the multi-shot and all this stuff. There's a problem with the way of thinking of it, and we're thinking of it like a mass production. Like it was like we have an assembly line, we put something in the start, and it just gets mass produced, and then at the end, right? But comps, especially ones that are comped with film and not just like feature animation, for example, like every plate is different. Every plate has some unique quality or something. So you can't really mass produce those things. Let's say that you had like you just plug a plate in, you run a shot grid action, and then you get an end result comp, right? Well, that's going to give you something, and maybe that gives you like a work in progress or something like that. But at some point, every shot needs to be like an individual use case where it's customized for that shot. Whether it's like the type of camera, the lighting change, they move the light, whatever it is, there's a person running through that's different. So What we actually want, I think, is we want something that I was doing some research about this, and in the 80s, they came up with the term called mass customization. And you can think of that as like Legos is probably a good example of like you're producing the pieces that are going to be all the same, but somebody's going to put them all together. Or another example might be like Apple, where they all make MacBook Pros, and the MacBook Pros are all the same, but you can swap out the parts, so you can still customize the end result so that you can have more RAM or more memory or something like that. But for them, there's no like extra cost because they've built it into their production like pipeline or whatever. And what I would think is that most of the stuff that we're doing all the same kind of stuff. We all have the same like vignettes and all that stuff like at the end, or most if we're doing like I don't know holograms or something like. Yeah. All of that could be a template or a sky or something. It's all like a templatized. Now, it's a shame that we have to basically go off the pipeline and then do everything from scratch for like one shot. And that's where all the time is being eaten up. But the way I think about this mass customization or something is that like 80% of your comp can be global, let's say, and only the parts that you need to take off, the modules that you need to remove to customize, then you can customize that part of your Nuke script. But everything else could be the same. And I think that's where we need to lean more towards, because that's just going to save you time. If you need to go back to the global, you can go back. But if you need to customize, you can just like uncheck it and customize that one part. And so like obviously as like a lead or somebody setting up a sequence of shots, you'd want like as much of the Nuke script as possible to be automated and only leave open like the key or like, the things that are going to change for that one shot. And that can be something that the artist can easily do. And that's apparently not how it's like right now.
I mean, that makes so like where I agree with that is like, let's say you've got to just kick out like whip ones, right? Whip twos very quickly. That sounds amazing, right? You just get these variable switches. You can kick out a whole sequence. Like a lead comp could just set up their template, which is probably a template from another show. They drop it in and it gets you 60, 70% of the way there, right? Because the camera's now pointing at this part of the sky for this shot. It's done a super quick key and this kind of thing. So like that, I agree. Like you could very quickly work up to whip twos or whip threes. And that all the Nuke scripts are the same across all those shots, right? And then maybe individual artists drop in, and then they're adding those finishing touches, as you said, on like that. I kind of like that idea. What I don't like is like this thing in my script can change at any point. I guess it's a communication thing, though, right? Because you wouldn't just the lead comp wouldn't change it.
I see it more like a render, where like you don't change the render until you version up, and there's a version system, and that you like, okay, this was version 3 of the template, now it's version 4, and only when I say to update. Can you do it? And also, if you have it set to custom, it won't update because that's your custom thing. So then you need to go ahead, Adrian.
I feel developers have figured out this very well with merge requests and branches and commits and pushing to the repo and pulling and getting notifications where this is not up to date. How do you want to merge it, or do you want to have a separate branch? So I think what I really take from your idea, Tony, is that it will be great to have certain parts of the script that can be considered their own thing, be it a module or something publishable or something that depend on a single repo. And at some time, and anytime you can get like a, hey, this has been updated. Do you want to see what's changed? So you can review it and see if it's worth pulling out the changes. Cool. Or maybe an artist is just working on a script and there's some section that the artist is not meant to change, but they need to change it for their shot. And then at some point, it's like, hey, maybe this is worth pushing into the main repo for other artists to pick up. And then it will be a kind of a pull request, and then the sub would be like, hey, maybe this is worth adding into this. And then all the other artists would get a sort of notification, hey, this has been updated.
That's true. I mean, maybe as well, right? Like because generally you have like 000 shots in a sequence that are just like, so what you could do as a lead is, let's say you do update the backdrop for the sky or the background. Well, what you could do is you could automate kicking out a contact sheet, right? With all the shots updated in their current form, but just with that backdrop switched out before you publish it, right? Like before you do push it, if that makes sense, to check if anything's breaking.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, actually. Maybe I'm starting
I want to like reiterate. So, because I need to stress like the main problem that I see. The main problem is that, as you guys probably know, like you can use the same template for like the majority of shots for whip, and you can do that for a very long time. But as soon as some point comes along, like you get an extra note for that shot, then you need to basically like save out that new script as its own script and then work on it from there. So it's no longer global. It's no longer using the same template. And what the shame of that is that if you then update the global, say you have 10 shots and only one of them has a note, and so that one gets plucked out. So now you have 9. So the next time you want to update the sky, it gets updated for those 9, but then for that one, you have to go in and do it manually because it's no longer belonging to the global template or whatever. And my point is that like as much as you can keep global in your script, like you only want to change the stuff that you need to change, and all the other things you would want to keep global. Because otherwise, why would we even have a template? Like we would just start from scratch every single time. But obviously, that's a waste of time. So we want to get the most benefit out of these global modules as we can. At least that's how I'm seeing it.
See, that makes way more sense to me than this multi-shot thing of like, I've got a grade node and I'm going to change the variables of the grade node per shot with a
I
like that just sounds
I don't think
like,
that's a good idea.
Oh my god,
that's too limiting.
Like using one defocus node. It's just
we need modules. We need to treat.
we do.
So we need to treat a module, and when I say module, of course, you have like everything in a backdrop with an output or multiple outputs. I think multiple outputs, but essentially like a CG render can just be versioned up. Why can a module not be versioned up as well? Like why can I not just grab a keying? Like somebody updated a keying template so that all the keys are improved a bit. And this is assuming before you've customized it, right? Like let's just say you've made a really stupid base key, but then you had it an hour and you updated it, and now all the shots get better because like the D-spill's better or something like that. Like that's something that you want to propagate everywhere globally. To
it's
improve
basically
it.
fancier live groups, isn't it? Like it's building on the live group idea, basically.
That's
the thing. I'm with you on that.
The purpose of a live group is supposed to be that, but it's so limiting because number one, it's inside of a group, you can't see what's going on, and number two, it only has one output. So like that means you can't have multiple channels. You can't have like, I mean, you can fudge it in a way, but it's incredibly difficult to work through. But that's if they just made the idea of a live group more open in a backdrop, I think that would be really beneficial to this.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And again, you've already got this idea of like these 000 shots in a sequence on Shotgun, so you could publish them all there, and like, yeah, that seems like I'm in, man. That's not multi-shot. That's just better.
For me, there's like a huge part of this that is how do we reconcile updates to a module with updates that an artist made, and that's where the typical like git merge comes in, where we need to have a way to see what's the global template looking like now versus what did I change, and then be able to like update things and be left with the new global with my previous customizations in a specific module. For me, that's super important if we want.
I think that's that would be a great like dream project, but I think it's still separate from the issue because at the moment, if you get a new template, like if you customize it already and you already made it your own Nuke script, and then somebody updates a template, you also need to manually figure out what the heck changed.
You have to reconnect and like, oh shit, this
so you still need to do that today. So what would be cool? What you can't do today is you can't be like, oh hey, thanks for the global update where you completely changed the template. So let me just click on a button to go back to global. You can't do that today, and you should be able to do that, in my opinion. Or you should be able to go back to version 6 or back to version 5. Like you should be able to kind of like go through the different versions of it, because what you're talking about, Adrian, is like a separate issue, which I agree, which is a great thing. It's like, imagine if you could then import only some of the changes or still like include your grade nodes and changes like roto shapes or whatever. That would be a beautiful thing, but that's like a step beyond. It's like the next level.
So then we just need to be able to see the live group as a backdrop and have multiple
output things is definitely the it's definitely the one. But like it would be cool to like not worry about if my backdrop gets bigger, it like covers the rest of my Nuke script. I mean, things have bounding boxes in the node graph. I mean, it would be pretty easy to like figure out, oh, this thing got bigger, I was just going to move it over and still like maintain your script structure. Because they do that in other like softwares, I'm sure.
Yeah, it just automatically makes it so there has to be this many pixels or whatever it is between a node or
Yeah.
This is a good one. This is some spicy topics. We'll just forward this to the Foundry, basically, right?
We need to brainstorm a bit more. I've been working on like a presentation, maybe like get everything together.
Oh my god, Dragon's Den style. You and like the Foundry are sat there.
Great. Yes.
We can do it.
We probably should wrap this episode up right now. It's a short one, but we'll be doing these more often for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, so we have plenty to discuss. And
it was good catching up.
We have some guests on the list.
Very good catch.
Yeah,
it's been too long.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's we've got a load more topics for the future as well, which is always good. Good to see you guys.
You too. See you guys.
Yeah.